Welcome to my next Lost. Season 5 episode review video. Before I get into that though, pretty important, if you aren't caught up to the point where I am been rewatching or watching Lost, or you're just not entirely sure, then you definitely need to take the initiative and pay attention to the episode's title, which of course I'll mention, as well as put in the description. If that happens to be the case, if you're not caught up, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. And full disclosure, I've already seen the TV series Lost 3 other times. It's one of my top 5 favorite TV shows of all time, as a matter of fact. Want to rewatch the show and let it resonate, but I'm not the only one that's currently watching Lost. The legendary Crazy Coffee Man, who you see in my comment section for Dexter, Lucifer, Breaking Bad, and some physical media related videos, is actually watching Lost for the very first time. He's in for a real treat. So join us on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comment section. However, I don't want to see any spoilers past this episode. So with all that said, this will be Lost Season 5, Episode 3. The title of this episode is called Jughead. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. So we start with a flash forward, but it's not way far in the future. It's like right in the flash forward. In an unknown coastal town in the Philippines, greeted by a banner that reads, welcome or long live in Filipino. Desmond is running through this place looking for a doctor named Efren Salongo. And Desmond finally reaches a hut, finding the doctor playing cards. The two then rush back to Desmond's boat and find Penny in an active labor. After being instructed to push, Penny successfully gives birth to a baby boy, which leads the couple to kiss and profess their love to each other. Then we go further in the future. Desmond and his son Charlie, which I'm guessing is probably 3 years later, are sitting on their sailboat, and Desmond begins to tell him of a special island he used to live on, a place he hasn't visited for many years. He reveals that the island he is speaking of is in fact Great Britain. He tells Charlie that he is from Scotland, the most beautiful part of Britain, and also where his parents fell in love at. Soon after, Penny joins them on the deck and tells Charlie that this also was the place where his father broke his mom, her heart. And Desmond replies that he left that bit out. And then back on the island, we have Miles, Charlotte, and Daniel Faraday, and 2 other survivors of the flaming arrow attack in the previous night are traveling to the creek to meet up with the remaining survivors. When they get there, they find no one. The 2 survivors wander slightly away just as Miles notices tripwires connected to explosives. He shouts a warning, but not before the Claymore mines are triggered, killing the 2 survivors and dazing the remaining 3. Before they can recover, a group of people dressed in army fatigues emerge from the jungle armed with bows and guns and take them prisoner. And then we have a blonde woman states that there were 20 in the group at the beach, but only 5 at the creek. She asks them where the rest of their group is. Miles replies that perhaps the rest of his people were blown up by some more of the other landmines. The others' landmines, I should say. The blonde woman says that they did not place the mines and blame Miles' group for them, mistaking the group for U.S. military. And then the blonde woman asks who is in charge. Miles points to Daniel Faraday, and then the blonde woman says to Daniel, "You just couldn't stay away, could you?" Back to another flash forward. Desmond tells Penny that he must find Daniel Faraday's mother and tells her that Daniel is still on the island and that Desmond will be gone with this for good. Or we'll be done with this for good, I should say. But if Daniel Faraday told Desmond all this on the island 3 years ago, Penny wonders, then why did Desmond just remember it 2 days ago? Desmond does not have an explanation, but he has a clear memory of Daniel Faraday knocking on the hatch door, telling Desmond to go to Oxford because everyone is in danger. And Desmond is the only one who could save them. Penny then asks him to promise her he will never go back to the island, to which Desmond replies, "Why in God's name would I want to go back there?" And then we have the blonde woman ask where the rest of the people are, and Daniel Faraday tells her that he does not know, and then the blonde woman and her group then take the three to their camp. Locke, Sawyer, and Juliet debate what to do with the two assailants they have captured. Locke identifies the gun that Jones' group was carrying as an M1 gun that looks new despite dating from 1940s or 1950s. Sawyer notices Locke's leg and asks who shot him, but before John can answer, Juliet reminds them that there are more important issues to decide. When the assailants speak to each other in a foreign language, Juliet reveals that she understands Latin, the language they were speaking, based on their knowledge of Latin. Charlotte, Miles, and Daniel Faraday are taken to the others' camp, and Faraday notices that one of his captors is wearing bandages that he believes cover burns from radiation exposure. Miles begins to behave erratically and tells Daniel Faraday that they are walking over a top of a fresh grave that is less than a month old. He says that the grave contains bodies of 4 U.S. Army soldiers, 3 of whom were shot and a 4th who died from radiation exposure. Faraday asks if Miles was able to ascertain what year the soldiers might have said it was, but he doesn't get an answer as they have arrived at the others' camp, a set of military tents on what appears to be the mesa. They are introduced to Richard Alpert, who believes to be, or who appears to be, as usual, the same age. So it's pretty apparent that Richard Alpert doesn't age at all. Richard believes Faraday is coming back for the bomb. Back to our flash forward, Desmond then goes to Oxford in search of Daniel Faraday's records, but the receptionist tells him that there are no records of anyone by the name Faraday being employed at the university. Suggesting it may be a clerical error, she asks Desmond what year he visited, but he is unable to remember. After snooping around, Desmond finds Daniel Faraday's lab where he experimented on Eloise in The Constant, Season 4, Episode 5. The door is sealed, but Desmond ignores this. The lab is now abandoned, essentially. His old attic laboratory, including his rat maze and chalkboard, is now covered in burlap tarps. And then a custodian arrives and notices Desmond. He tells him that he was secretly burning the rats Daniel Faraday was experimented on so no one would know what he was doing there. He also tells why Oxford is actually ashamed of Faraday at this point, because he experimented on a live human subject, a young woman. Faraday decides to play along with their misconception. This is back to the island, and says that they are scientists attached to the American military. Upon noticing radiation burns on one of the others, he concludes that the bomb is a hydrogen bomb and that its casing is cracked. He offers to deactivate the bomb, but Richard Alpert wonders if they are not here for a suicide mission, detonating the bomb and destroying the island with it. And then Faraday convinces Richard that he will not detonate it by admitting that he loves Charlotte and would not want anyone or any harm to come to her. And then Juliet identifies them others, explaining Others 101. So they're others from the past. Upon learning their captives are others, Locke decides to have them take them to their camp. And Juliet convinces Cunningham to take them there, but before anything can happen, Jones breaks his companion's neck, killing him instantly, and begins to run into the jungle. Locke refuses to shoot the escaping men, explaining to Sawyer that the prisoner is one of my people. Back to our flash forward, Desmond tracks down the woman named Teresa, only to find out that she is in what appears to be a coma, but is in fact a time trance similar to Minkowski. Her consciousness is traveling through time and cannot be stopped. Teresa's sister Abigail warns Desmond of Faraday's cowardness and how he abandoned Teresa, unlike Charles Whitmore, who has graciously paid for her medical support and a live-in nurse. It is revealed that Whitmore subsidized Daniel Faraday's research at Oxford University. Charlotte tells Daniel he didn't have to say what he said about being in love with her. Daniel says he said it because that's what he meant, or he meant it. Richard Alpert orders the blonde woman to take Faraday to the bomb. Jones, fresh from his escape from Locke, arrives in camp, confident that he was not followed, as it would be impossible for an old man to track him, hardly that a man who could know the island better than he does. Faraday is taken to expect the bomb. Locke, Sawyer, and Juliet arrive on the outskirts of the camp. When asked how she knew Richard Alpert would be among the group, Juliet responds, because Richard has always been here. Locke then asks Juliet how old is Richard, and to which she replies simply, old, but he doesn't age. Seeing Faraday being marched toward the woods at gunpoint, Sawyer misinterprets this as an execution and determines to rescue him. However, Locke is determined to head into the camp and meet Richard Alpert. Locke states that he will give Juliet and Sawyer a 10-minute head start to rescue Faraday, and then proceeds into the camp. Sawyer wonders if Juliet wants to stay here in Crazy Town. Faraday and the blonde woman inspect the bomb, which is named Jughead. Upon seeing some sort of something on the serration on the other side of the bomb, Faraday recoils in horror and confirms to the blonde woman that the casing of the bomb is cracked. He tells her that they must seal the crack with lead and then bury the bomb in a concrete bunker. He explains that this will work because he is from the future and that the island has not experienced a nuclear blast. As he is explaining this, Sawyer comes up from behind the blonde woman with a rifle and demands drop the gun, Blondie. Back to our flash forward. Desmond journeys to Charles Whitmore's office, barges past his security, or his secretary, not security, and demands to know where he can find Daniel Faraday's mother. When Whitmore dissembles, Desmond reveals that he knows Whitmore has funded Faraday's research at Oxford and paid for Teresa's medical support. Desmond then says that he will not answer any of Whitmore's questions, but that he only has one question for Charles Whitmore. And when he answers it, Desmond will leave him alone. Desmond then proceeds to ask about Daniel Faraday's mother's address. Whitmore asks if Penny is safe, but Desmond insists on learning the address. Whitmore eventually gives Desmond an address in Los Angeles, but tells him that Daniel's mother will not be happy to see him because she is a very private person. Whitmore ends the conversation with a warning that this business has been going on for many, many years, and begs Desmond to keep himself and Penny out of it and stay safe by going back into hiding. Striding into the camp and demanding to see Richard Alpert, Locke causes a commotion, particularly angering the man whom he had kept prisoner. Locke hopes to continue where he left off with Richard in his conversation, but Richard, of course, does not recognize him or know his name. As Jones holds a gun up to Locke and the camp turns hostile, Locke declares that he was sent by Jacob. Stunned, Richard Alpert tells the young man to lower his gun, but when he refuses, Richard angrily aims the man's gun away from Locke, snapping, "I said, put it down, Whitmore!" Locke instantly identifies the former prisoner as a young Charles Whitmore, and Locke says, "Nice to meet you." Desmond, in a flash forward, returns to Penny and tells her that Daniel Faraday's mom is dead. Penny asks Desmond why is he lying, and Desmond reveals that Daniel Faraday's mom is in Los Angeles, to which Penny replies that she and Charlie will be going with him. And then Locke meets with Richard, now holding the compass that Locke gave him. Richard asks how Locke got the compass, and Locke says that Richard will give him the compass in the future, and that Richard will also refer to Locke as their leader. Richard explains that their leaders are chosen by a very specific process and that it starts at a very, very young age. John Locke asks what year it was, and he is told 1954. Locke says that he will be born in 2 years, May 30th, 1956, in California, invites Richard to come meet him. Locke then senses that time is about to shift and urges Richard to tell him how to get off the island. Before he can get an answer, there is another shift, of course. The more shifting the island does, the better, apparently. And then the group finds themselves at a point in time in which Richard's camps does not exist anymore. Daniel, upon seeing Charlotte, rushes over to comfort her, but soon after they are reunited, she begins bleeding profusely from her nose and collapses. And that's what ends this episode of Lost. So, okay episode. I mean, we're missing a lot of characters in this episode. It's a more Desmond-focused episode with our newer characters that we've been introduced to, and then you got Sawyer, John Locke, and Richard Alpert and Juliet. So I'm going to give the episode an 8.2 out of 10. And my character of the episode for this one, I'm going to go with Desmond. And the secondary character, I'm going to go with Daniel Faraday. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of Lost and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you Hulk smash that like button, share this video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are regarding this episode of Lost. What would you rate it? Who would you choose as character or characters of the episode? Remember, you'll be interacting with me and the legendary Crazy Coffee Man, so make sure you come with some good questions. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100,000 subscribers. Join the team. Show your damn support and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.